Hello, and welcome to the Furonis blog, and actually the very first episode of the Furonis blog. I'm very excited to say I'm Justin Kubeck, the founder of Furonis.
And I'm Rico Camacho. I am a city alderman as well as a teacher working in the education department. And I am so excited that Justin invited me to co host this podcast with him.
Before we get too far into things, I just wanted to go through what we're going to talk about today. Uh, I'd like to get to know each other a little bit. Rico and I are friends, but met fairly recently. And then we're going to get into a few things that we'll cover on a more regular basis, being a mental health focused podcast. To jump right into it, as you know, my name's Justin. If you've read my blog at all, you might know a little bit about me, but for those that don't, I created Furonis in fall of 2023, and I've been kind of the creative content creator type for the last 10 to 15 years or so. I'm diagnosed with ADHD, and so career-wise, I've kind of been a little bit all over the place, and it's brought me here, which I'm happy to be.
And I'm Rico Camacho. As I said, I am a recently elected city official. Very excited, my first time doing it. I've been a teacher for 11 years, and actually I was in business for 10 before that, so I'm a lot older than I look when you ever get to see me. But I've ran on a platform of considerably helping the mental health field in the city, particularly because I feel that mental health is something that is like a muscle or a bone. If you break it or tear it, you go to the doctor to fix it.
Absolutely.
And so it would work the same way with your brain. Nothing, because I feel like there's sometimes some negative reputations surrounding mental health. So I ran on that platform very strongly in helping, because I love the city of Waukesha's crisis response unit that they go along with the police force. So between that and obviously being a teacher, mental health surrounds us at all times. And so I feel that as this is a passion for me, I feel that some of the networks that Justin and I provide, and yes, we met recently through my cousin. Shout out to Alfie, gotta love that guy.
Love you, Alfie.
And so he helped me with my campaign. Justin did, and Alfie ran my campaign, and he did an amazing job. Obviously, I won, so he did a real good job. And Justin's been there every step of the way, and it's just become a great friend. So I'm very excited to be here with him.
I'm glad to get this partnership kicked off. A few things that you talked about, I just want to re-emphasize. Furonis is based out of Waukesha, Wisconsin. You are an alderman in the city of Waukesha. Our focus is going to be on Waukesha-based mental health topics. We will be focusing on that specifically. We'll get into bigger picture things statewide. We'll get into bigger picture things nationwide. But for our events and things that we would ask you to participate in, they are going to be more locally focused.
So let's get moving on it. What else we got next?
Well, you also mentioned the stigma about mental health, and I wanted to really kind of emphasize on the stigma around men's mental health. That's part of the pillars on which Kindred is built on. With that, for every unit I sell, I donate $1 to men's mental health services. As we discussed a little earlier, we're both men, so for us to talk about men's mental health, it kind of makes sense. But it's really just to get another voice out there, to be willing to be vulnerable in the public light, to talk about these topics that we've been taught not to talk about our entire life.
And I want to add to that, especially because I am a rare breed. I'll even say it. I've been in education now for 10 years, and I'm a minority. Yes, my name is Rico, and I'm from Puerto Rico. No, I'm not actually. My dad is, though. But I'm also half Mexican. And, being a minority male in education, there's not a ton of us. And so when you look at that from a mental health perspective, we can even bring in the concept of culture around it. And that's the reason I bring that up, is because we look at and see so many different things. So mental health looks different in so many different areas. And I feel as though, watching children from different cultures, and when I say culture, I don't just mean race. I mean literally, I've taught in West Allis, St. Francis, Milwaukee, Waukesha. I've taught everywhere. And, even those within themselves are different, and respecting that concept is huge, and created, like, that's why I love that I was even asked to be on the show, because it's creating this awareness. It's creating that even people such as Justin and I, who are we professionals? No, absolutely not. But it is important. And it is extremely something that will help create a better society, which is really what I ran on to begin with, to be a city council member, is to serve the community and make it better for everybody. And where we start is acknowledging that our mental health is one of the most important concepts to act. You can only give as much as you are. And what I mean by that is, there's the old saying that you can only serve somebody when your glass is full. You can't serve anybody when it's not. So in order to be one with who you are and aligned with who you are, that makes you all the better for everyone else around you. And the best way to do that is to create the awareness for mental health. And then, as Justin and I discussed earlier, we're going to go into things and resources that you can do that will help you. And as Justin said, we are men, and sometimes there is a stigma around, not sharing our feelings and not sharing our emotions, when we're all emotional beings, and that's the best thing you can do for yourself. So, again, I am so excited to keep going at this, and let's really look at how you want to see yourself. That is going to be what is vital to this.
To build on that, introspection, that self-reflection, is going to be really important here. And as we discuss various topics, we are going to be asking you, the listener here, to join in whatever comment or email or however you're comfortable, to contribute to that conversation. It can be completely anonymous, and that way we can establish a little bit of back and forth to get to know what exactly you all would like to hear us talk about or dive into, if there's a specific topic that you have interest in or have always been curious about. And I mean, it's not just going to be Rico and I every podcast. We have guests that are lined up.
Well, we have a lot of plans for various guests. For example, my mother. She is a psychotherapist. She's been doing it for a long time. I'm not going to say how long, because she'll get mad at me then I'll age her. But she's worked for Aurora. She works for Aurora and has owned her own mental health facility. She's done workshops in the Prague, Czech Republic, California, all over the country, and she's very, very good at what she does. And I'm not just saying that because I'm her son. But anyway, there's again, just looking at different things like police force to come and talk about the crisis response unit, and other guests that we want to actually get these professionals that deal with it on a daily basis as well. So you have two regular guys trying to serve the community by creating this awareness, but we need to bring in those professionals because they know what they're doing and they know what the battle they have is. Talking about the future here and those guests and everything, I want to circle back actually to my mom. So one of the reasons that I am so excited about the experiences and the bringing forth awareness in this way, through this medium, is that, so I was raised by a therapist, and what's really cool about this story, for me anyway, is that my mom had me when she was 20, so I actually went through college with her. I remember going to her classes sometimes when she was getting her master's degree when I was 11 years old. And so, being raised with this was a very eye-opening experience, because I've always been aware of, of different types of mental health issues. Even like my mom had a DSM since I was little. And so I feel as though, like I said earlier, we sometimes minimize because we always can't see the pain that someone's going through.
Well, I'm kind of on the stark opposite of that.
Ooh,
for a
that's
background.
Interesting. What do you mean?
So as far as my mental health exposure at a young age, I never was really taught about mental health conditions or problems.
So then, wait, what got you What got you into this then? If you never really heard of it, because like you're right, that isn't really opposite.
Right. So growing up, again, just was never really made aware of a lot of that stuff. The stigma of the late '90s, early 2000s of men being in touch with their feelings was not a thing that was promoted. I was definitely raised in that kind of toxic masculinity culture. It was when I got into high school, I started getting.
Well, see, I actually want to cut you off there real quick. The reason is because you said something that was really, I'm going to use this word lightly, triggering.
Okay.
And I tell you why. Because I don't believe in toxic masculinity or toxic femininity. And I tell you why I don't believe in that. I don't believe hurt people hurt people. Nobody's actually toxic. They're just hurt and need healing. And so because of that, that is the basis form of mental health is healing. Because at the cornerstone of anything we do as humans, we never innately want to hurt someone else is my belief system. And when I say that, that's our inborn mentality that we do not want to do. It's when the experiences that we live on this planet tend to shape our belief systems. And once we shape our belief systems, we may believe that violence is the answer. So for example, if you are born in an abusive house, right? What may or may not happen is you may lash out. There's one of two things I've always seen as a teacher. One of the telltale signs that I've seen is if somebody's withdrawn, they might be getting hit. If somebody's violent, they also may be getting hit. And I mean that from a child perspective. And so going back to it, and the reason I don't also, because I'm a little biased being a teacher, all my kids are perfect in some way, shape, or form. You know? And I really believe that. I really do, because I'm a single father of 3. So I'm a male raising my 3 kids, and being aware of emotions is huge because, there's no sharing of time. It's literally just me and the kids. So I serve as both emotional support and protector simultaneously. And it's been a fascinating experience for me. And so coming from that area of being a male, raising these 3 children by myself is, and I don't want to say I'm completely by myself. I have my parents, I have cousins, I have family.
It takes a village.
Right, exactly. But like doing the main work by myself has really brought to the surface that when I watch other men struggle, I'm like, man, you must have just been hurt somehow. You know what I'm saying, Justin?
I get it. I guess for me, when I'm talking about the term toxic masculinity, the best way I could talk about it would be kind of your 90s frat boy humor.
Okay.
Kind of the overly dramatized idea of what it means to be a man and what it means to be man.
I get what you're saying.
And part of the stigma that comes along with that is, no, I'm not depressed. Of course not. I wouldn't be in touch with my feelings that way. I don't get sad.
So kind of what I was saying too, though.
Exactly. Being able to, it's like shutting down or repressing that want to get into that introspective work.
Well, and I want to add, it even seems sometimes like, you don't even want to show your excitement for things.
Oh, yeah. Well, and it goes down to, I always kind of found it strange as a kid growing up and seeing my friends and myself get interested in girls and dating and the romance side of life.
Oh boy, at that age, man, back when we grew up, yes.
Well, and that's when, as a young man, young boy, you're trying to kind of figure out who you are and how you're trying to present yourself to the world. And there's a fine line, or at least at the time, there was this preconceived idea of a fine line between...
What time range are you talking about?
Late 90s, early 2000s.
Yes, okay. I'm on board, yep.
Right, there is a slight age difference here. I tend to forget that sometimes.
What a jerk. I'm just kidding. Okay, go ahead. He lost his train of thought.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so what he was talking about was the stigma of the early 2000s, that we were talking, the frat boy humor, as it were, and getting into the fact of that was the norm.
Yeah, and it was the fine line that I was talking about is, you couldn't care about yourself too much. You couldn't spend too much time on your hair or what you looked at, or you were metrosexual or gay or whatever it might be.
And then they always thought they would, especially in that time period, they think that gay was a bad thing.
Oh yeah, there was a huge negative connotation on it. And it was really when I was kind of in middle school, getting into high school, that there was this culture shift that happened when suddenly it was only bullies that were talking that way, and you didn't want to. Suddenly it was stigmatized to start believing that stuff, which was, a positive change in culture, if you ask me.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And more importantly is and I actually love that you said that, because I feel overall society, we are making strides in the area of mental health. However, not even however, it's this podcast, for example. Two men are doing a podcast on mental health. Like he said, in those time frames, I don't think that this was a possibility. Yeah, not just that because podcasts weren't in existence, but like because talking about it was so difficult. Like, yes, I mean, there was a lot of people. I identify as a straight male, and because I could talk about my emotions because of my background with it, people thought I was gay. Right. And I have no issues because I'm fine with. I just identify as a straight male. If I was gay, I'd say I was gay, but I'm not. But the negative connotation behind it was a big thing, and now today it's kind of lessened in some respects. Now, granted, yes, I'm in politics, and the political climate is a little different. But with some of those laws, but I don't want to go too far into that right now, because I think that opens up a whole nother Pandora's box. But I feel as though
it's a different episode entirely.
It really is. It really is. But no, I just feel like what we need to do is start somewhere, and that's what we're doing here, is starting somewhere. And I've always been an advocate for making people feel better, and there's nothing I can do to make you feel better, but I can always at least be the best version of myself so you can be as happy as you can be.
Well, and at the very least, that's what any of us are capable of. And the big reason...
Love that.
The big reason why we're doing, or at least why I think we're doing what we're doing here, is one more voice in the conversation makes one more person feel comfortable joining in. The more people we get talking about these topics and confronting these issues, the more... Sorry, English teachers of my entire life. The more better life is going to be.
God. He's lucky I'm a social studies teacher.
I was going to say, what subject?
Yeah, he's lucky I'm a social studies teacher and credit recovery. I do both, but yeah, he's lucky about that, but I'm still cringing a little bit. I'm not going to lie. Like, I think he hurt my soul there.
More better.
And he had to say it again.
Yeah.
So now my feelings are hurt and my soul hurts.
I'm going to go home and make some stickers for you.
I don't think that's a great idea at all. I think that's a horrible idea, as a matter of fact. My mental health has gone a little crazy. No, I'm just kidding. But actually, it's interesting you say that we're talking about that, because as we're kind of laughing here, that is probably one of the best medicines for mental health, is just laughing.
Yeah.
I mean, and that is something else that I really wanted to, personally, I wanted to bring to this show, because, when you talk about this, yes, mental health can be a serious thing. However, you make someone laugh, I swear to you, and I promise you, it always makes things a little bit better. Maybe not perfect, but a little bit better.
Oh, yeah. I mean, going through chemotherapy.
Did you tell them about your cancer?
I've talked about it in the blog, but I haven't talked about it yet, I guess.
Let's talk about it.
So in 2023. Yeah, 2023.
Carry the two, divide the three.
Sorry, I'm doing some math. I got diagnosed with stage 3 testicular cancer. I went through well, it spread to my lymphatic system, and I went through 15 weeks of chemotherapy, and we've been in remission ever since. Knock on wood.
Knock on wood, and congratulations.
Thank you. It was a wild ride. I mean, I had a grasp on mental health practices before then, and I'm really glad that I did, because it's part of what got me through.
Right.
But humor...
Now, did you see any therapists while you were going through that?
No.
Interesting. Okay.
In fact, I've only ever talked to a therapist twice.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I was in the process of getting my prescription for ADHD. Yeah. This is another reason why I'm kind of a stark opposite.
Yeah.
I don't believe that I'm the right type of person for therapy. I will, disclaimer here, I think therapy is great. If you need it, if you want it, go do it.
But hold on, and I love that he said that, but we're going to challenge him, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to challenge him. What makes you the person to say you're not a candidate for therapy?
Because I'm a very open person with a lot of intellectual people. I'm a very open person in general. In fact,
But how is that disqualifying for needing therapy?
It's not. I just have an outlet for those things already, so I don't need another outlet for that.
Here's what I'm going to say, and I'm going to argue with you.
Okay, that's fine. That's what this is about.
Well, I feel as though labeling yourself as a person or not a person, you have so many outlets.
Hold on. I am a person.
Well, no, I'm just kidding. Maybe he's a lizard. No, I'm just kidding. But what I'm thinking is that, you have different levels of support in different areas. So to say you're not a candidate disqualifies the whole concept of being able to share different things with different people. So, like, one thing I found, I have tons of outlets to talk to, but I also know that my mom as a therapist cannot be my therapist because she's biased. She will never give me therapy ever in her life. She has already said that because she's my mother and there's strong emotions that go along with that, right?
Yeah.
I will never be the perfect person for my kids because you hurt my kids, I'm going to have a very elevated response. And I know that. And it's just innate in me. Okay? So you can have so many different outlets, but having that safe space, that one-on-one person, that non-biased person, because every outlet you create in your life has some sort of bias. Your wife, your children, your mother, your father, your grandmother, your aunt, your uncle, always is going to have some sort of bias. It doesn't matter who it is, friends,
Yep.
right? This person has been trained to tell you that this is how things are, and the best therapists in the world, the best therapists in the world say nothing. They just ask questions, and I've learned this because I've been in therapy sessions, and some give you advice, and that's not always the best thing to do. You let me figure it out. You let you figure it out. That's what they're there for.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think that labeling yourself is one of the biggest issues that we have internally, is to label ourselves. I'm this way, therefore. We're ever-changing beings.
And maybe I misspoke, or I didn't mean what I said.
If you could see his face right now, I think I scared him.
No, because I like what you're saying. It makes sense. It's not that I'm not a candidate for therapy. In fact, there's a handful of my 2 sessions that I've had.
Right.
I have a handful of nuggets that I kept from both of those that I really like.
Right.
It's just not something that I feel that I need. I feel like what would come from that is already satisfied in other aspects of my life. I have people that.
So you're saying, from the perspective of the earlier thing I said, you don't feel that you have a broken leg. You feel like you have a sliver or a little cut that you can just put some ointment on or take some Advil and over-the-counter stuff.
I know when it's a sliver, and I know when it's a broken leg. I've gone to my doctor and asked for antidepressants. And,
right.
That's actually what caused... I was unmedicated for my ADHD for about 7 years. And then what I thought was seasonal depression didn't go away one spring.
Gotcha.
And then I decided to call my doctor and I was like, hey, let's revisit this. And I went on antidepressants and ADHD meds again for the first time in 7 years at the same time. And then about 6 months later, my doctor actually recommended weaning me off the antidepressants.
Right. Do you think that could have gone differently had you been seeing a therapist? I'm just curious.
It was during that time that I saw a therapist.
And why would the medication and the therapy not... Why did you choose not to see the therapist anymore?
So the primary reason why I didn't want to see the therapist anymore was because it was $130 for a 45-minute phone call.
Okay, that is 100% valid. Like, anybody argues that, I don't care. Yeah, that is one issue that in the future we could talk about from a political perspective is the health insurance companies covering said services. Because yes, I couldn't agree more.
Well, and then to build on that, it was also not something that I was seeking. It was something that my doctor was asking of me in order to get my prescription.
Correct. You're right. That makes sense.
Yeah, with the practice that my doctor's involved with, they have various agreements depending on what prescriptions you're on. And so he wanted me to see a therapist to talk about the fact that I'm a gun owner and I have guns in the house and how that might be in play with my mental health, and I was going on antidepressants at the time, and it bothered me that suddenly me being a gun owner was a concern for my therapist.
Yeah, and actually I'm going to add to that. I mean, just like anything else, some therapists have better practices and better strategies than others. So I have seen, especially in my experience, because my kids, as I said, and even myself going through being a single dad and doing everything I'm doing, gosh, it is so nice to talk to somebody non-biased, and my kids do the same thing, and I'll be very honest, especially not having a mother around. It's a very different dynamic than most are used to. I mean, they get told things like, oh, you don't have a mom, or oh, your dad must be soft. I mean, they get bullied based on the fact that I'm raising them. And I laugh about that, but having that space is, I think, so vital to anybody. Everybody is a candidate.
I should say, and this is the exception, I guess, to the rule I've placed upon myself. I'm definitely an advocate of therapy in a group setting, family therapy, couples therapy, that kind of
heck
thing.
Yeah.
Getting a non-biased party involved to be a mediator, to decode and translate between parties, because sometimes it's just a communication problem that's actually causing the issue.
I would say 99.9% of the time it's a communication problem.
Yeah.
I mean okay, so my one of my daughter and my son's mother, my second ex-wife, she worked for the Women's Center, and that was an eye-opening experience for me because I was involved in some of the volunteer work, helping. She would call me and say, hey, could you help me move some furniture around or whatever, and so I'd go. And she working there, I just saw so many mental health issues from the perspective of domestic violence, and this was actually both men and women. It's if I'm arguing with you, right? So me and Justin are having an argument, right? We have different levels of mental health. Both of us probably, and I'm guessing, but are in agreement we're not going to get violent, right? We might get angry with each other, we might disagree with each other, but we're not going to take it there because we have different strategies, as we've told you through our life experience, that we're able to calm ourselves down. We're able to handle those situations. Those people are not. And so what's interesting about that is, they don't communicate well with their partner, so they get angry because they can't voice what it is they need, so in turn they get violent. And so when we joke around about communication issues, that tends to be it. When you can't communicate what you want sometimes, and obviously that is not okay. That is a not okay strategy because you're hurting somebody about something you feel you're struggling with. Is there another strategy so you don't feel the need to hurt someone else because you're not able to communicate what it is you need to? You can't tell us what your needs are. And that's huge.
And that, I think, is really what it comes down to. And I mean, I'll be a self-aware male for a little bit.
Atta boy. Proud of you. Proud of you.
But and not to make an excuse out of it, but I think a lot of men just were never taught how to put words to that. You know, being raised in that kind of frat boy culture, like I talked about earlier, you know, to voice concerns about mental health and to have those problems is really looked down on and something that you'd be made fun of for or ridiculed for.
You know, I know we've been talking a little bit too, and I know you mentioned earlier about listeners. I at some point would love to hear what someone else's perspective is on that, what he just said. Like, what is that like for every other person out there?
Oh, I think you just opened the floodgates. You want women to tell you what you think it's, or what they think it's like for men to have never been taught how to express their emotions and feelings.
And you know what's funny about that? 100%. And I tell you why. Because closing the gender gap, I think, is huge.
Yeah.
I think the way the biases and the stereotypes between genders, men are this way, women are this way, is a completely false advocation for what we need and in this society. And I think that we need to learn that, yes, you know what, if I'd love a woman's opinion. If you're willing to sit down and give me an honest opinion, not just that you hate men because they all cheated on you, it's, well, you know, that's not very constructive in my opinion, but again, my humble opinion. But if you want to say, like, okay, yeah, he's right, we open up the floodgates, what is it? Like, why? And I think if everybody comes up with a reason, I think that we can start to even close those gender gaps in theory.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, that's the prime reason why we're doing this podcast in the first place. It's to have a conversation, to create the platform for that conversation, among others that we plan to have. One conversation I know we were planning to have here,
sure,
was something that's going to be a reoccurring thing, I think, on episodes. And that's going to be an event spotlight or a way to get involved, because not only does this need to be a conversation and a platform for that conversation, but we need to know what to do with it, right?
I agree. It goes beyond awareness is the first step. You know, acting on it is going to be one of the most important things that we provide as a service, because there is services out there for you, and whether you believe you are a candidate for therapy or not, you should really look at, because therapy comes in, and this is something Justin said very well, therapy does come in more than one way. You don't need to just sit down on a bed and be analyzed by Freud. You know, that sounds scary anyway. But, you know, there's different avenues for mental health and just doing what you need to do to take care of yourself. Well, so, go ahead. Yeah.
Talking about different avenues, the event that we wanted to talk about this week is the Reptiles and Resiliency at the Library. This is an event happening at the Waukesha Public Library on May 21st. Information is on the unitedwaukesha.org website. The event takes place from 5:30 to 6:30 with owner of WPS Reptiles, Bill Stewart, giving a presentation on how reptiles are successful on our planet by being resilient and adapting quickly in the face of difficult situations, which is something that's very important in all of our lives, reptile or human or otherwise.
I called him a lizard earlier as a foreshadow, just so you're all aware. And my English teacher would have been proud of me for saying foreshadow, unlike his more better. Yeah, that happened. I am a teacher, remember.
Am I getting a grade at the
end of this? God, yes.
All right.
And I don't know how it's looking.
Grades aside, and to recap what we were discussing, the Reptiles and Resiliency at the library event is going to be May 21st. That's a Wednesday from 5:30 to 6:30. Families and children are encouraged to join. All youth must be accompanied by a primary caregiver. This therapeutic program is intended for children and families affected by the Waukesha Christmas Parade tragedy.
Shout out to Aaron Sparks, buddy of 20 years.
For those interested, again, that's at the unitedwaukesha.org website. Up next on our docket here, something that I think is going to be another reoccurring, just little PSA on all of our episodes. And that's a shout out for the 988 Lifeline. You can go to their website, 988lifeline.org. It is a free and confidential service. It's a mental health crisis line for anybody that needs help, knows somebody that needs help, needs to figure out how to get support for whatever you might need. You can call, text, chat. They even have options for deaf and hearing impaired people. That's going to bring us to the last section of our podcast here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, time flies when you're having fun. This is where we say the parts like, thank you. Of course, that should go without saying, right?
Yeah.
We appreciate you all for being here.
Yes, we do. Thank you so much.
Be sure to follow along on the socials to not miss anything. Get all the updates for the podcast, for the blog. You can hear about events and things that we'll be doing on Facebook and Instagram.
And I'll also be trying to post some things as well from what the city is doing. I understand that there's a big outcry with Waukesha Memorial Hospital shutting down its psychiatric unit, but just be aware that they're not completely shutting it down. They're also relocating a lot of the patients, and they are still taking in some patients. It was just hard to financially maintain. So I get it. We need these facilities. I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying that everybody's doing everything in their power within the city limits to help continue that. So, but I will continue to give as many transparent updates as I can on how the city is handling mental health as well.
This is also the part of the show where we remind you again that we would love for this to be a conversation. Whatever platform you happen to be listening to this on, if you're able to leave a comment, leave a comment. If you need to go to the website and fill out the contact form, do whatever you got to do. We'd love to hear from you. We want you guys to all be a part of this.
Yes, this mental health is a community concept, not an individual concept. One of the greatest things I ever heard was every relationship is a mirror of who you are. So we are social creatures. I think COVID showed us that. And I feel as though, yes, there's a lot of internal work to do. However, you do your best work when you're working with someone.
Along with comments, we're also open to hearing any ideas for topics or show styles or formats. If there's something that you'd like to see or hear from us, please let us know.
Absolutely. Please do. And you can always find me on the city website.
Oh, actually, on that note, Rico, where can the people find you?
The city website.
Well, I also know you have an Instagram and
yes,
social media.
Sorry, I had to.
They already know where to find me. This
yes.
is the Feronis podcast. They came to Feronis, so I don't. This is.
I get it, dude. Rico2LAU is my Instagram. Rico Camacho is my Facebook. And my TikTok is Mr_Camacho_1. Yeah, my students made it for me. I did not do that. So.
I like it. We'll put all that in the description or wherever. We'll make it findable.
I believe him.
I'm glad somebody does.
Yeah.
On that note, this is where we say one last time, thank you.
We appreciate you.
Together, we are a collective of people that are trying to be better versions of ourselves and to better understand the world around us. And the more we help each other do that, I think the better the world would be.
I couldn't agree more.